there. My name is Matt Cole.
And I'm Brian Garrity.
And we are the producers of the Sexperts podcast. And we have a very special returning champion. Welcome back to the show. And I think this may put him on number one on the leaderboards and most guesty guest. Welcome back, Andy Livengood. Yeah.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being back here.
Glad to do it.
We've been chit-chatting for like 10 minutes while Brian was finishing up his work. He's just a workaholic, I swear to God. But I was saving this part. I was thinking about this, Andy, and I hope I make you blush on this. There's like a timeless quality about you, my friend. I was thinking about you and I was like, I'm so glad we're friends. And also, like, you're just like a perennial comedian. Like we could plop you in any like era of comedy. Maybe it's because you're so fucking good and talented and you'll just shine. And I see him blushing right now.
Yeah, I am.
Which is why we're going to record this podcast in black and white.
Exactly. I just do it as a silent film, but they're like, it's an audio podcast, you idiot.
What have you been up to? So we saw each other at the Pushies, and that feels like 6 months ago. But that was only in December, New Year's Eve.
It was only 2 shitty months ago.
Yeah, it's been 2 shitty months. What'd you say, Andy? What have you been up to?
That was my first Pushies experience. I've always been interested in that, but yeah,
that's right.
Had to wait for a pandemic.
Pandemic perk.
To be fair, it's usually a little better. That wasn't the best one.
I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was like just such a glorious car accident, but in like the best way possible.
It was still fun, and it always is a bit of a car accident, but usually it's a potluck car accident.
Yeah, the food does make it better. But for the virtual Pushies, you could eat whatever you wanted. So I mean, that was kind of cool.
Oh man, yeah. I'm like, ooh, baked salmon, Alaska.
All right, what have you been up to? Actually, there's a project that you've been working on that I need caught up with because I haven't I haven't watched it. But you've been working with like a lot of video stuff recently, yeah?
Yeah, I kind of the pandemic has been my film school, which was funny because that was what I always wanted to do before I got into comedy. I was like, I want to make movies and stuff like that. And I graduated high school before the internet was so huge that I could figure out how, like, I looked at my guidance counselor. I was like, I want to make movies. And they're just like, okay. So I'm like, now it's like, oh shit, I can learn how to do all this from home.
Yeah.
So yeah, the quarantinder thing that the Push was doing was my teaching myself. I don't know why I said it like that. Yeah, teaching myself editing, and then I'm working on a new project now, Andy Live and Stream, that's kind of teaching me After Effects and effect compositing and stuff like that. It's been great.
That is
I
so
love that
cool.
name.
Yeah, Andy Live and Stream. I don't know why. I don't know why it's so. I mean, it hits. It's live stream, Andy Live and Stream. I mean,
yeah, a friend of mine like pitched that as the title as a joke, and I was like, that's dumb. And then later that afternoon was like, hey, can I have that actually?
Names sometimes work that way.
Yeah.
See Exhibit A, Coachella.
That's
I'm
right.
not gonna lie, when I first read that, I was very like, that's fucking great.
And
It took me a while to sell Matt Cole on it though.
Yeah, and I will eat crow and say that I was like, we can't do that. And again, I guess I go for timelessness, and I was like, Cola-Palooza works better because a palooza is an actual thing. Coachella refers to one fucking festival out in the desert. So, but I was wrong. I was wrong, Brian. You were right.
It's a great name.
Listen, Matt, we all understand being a genius sometimes can be difficult.
Mozart
it leads one to overthink things.
What, did you say something about Mozart?
Yeah, I was like, Mozart needed that little guy to push him. I don't know. I never saw the movie.
Okay, cool. That's great too. Actually, Brian, have you had the same? Because we were talking about computers. Like, I finally got around to tinkering with computers. I've always loved, and my dad. I guess maybe I share this with him. He got his master's in electrical engineering. He helped wire the fucking F-14s and stuff. And I've always been kind of interested in that stuff. But I just started getting into, like, I built my own PC finally, and I've been getting into that sort of thing. What have you finally gotten into, Brian?
Well, I actually do have an answer to this.
Okay.
As somebody who was around when Push Theater first opened up, like I got started before we had the theater.
Yeah.
I always kind of couldn't. It was always confusing to me how the Pushers started performing together less when they had a theater.
Oh yeah.
Than they did before they had a theater.
Right.
But now that we've been doing improv and producing shows, I have gotten in. You're producing more than I am, but I'm producing a few, and I help produce them all. I've really learned how rewarding that can be and how much fun it is to design, produce, cast, and execute a show that goes well. And I've found it to be very similar to the experience of doing shows in real life. Like last night was the second time doing our improvised stand-up show, and it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Wasn't magic like the first month was.
You're chasing that high.
That happens, right?
Yeah.
That happens. You can't. It's not, a show's not going to be magic every single time you have it.
You'll be chasing that dragon the rest of your life, man.
I'm hooked on all kinds of those dragons. Yeah, but this is my newest one, and like, after the show this morning, thinking about like, as producers, how could we have done a better job setting it up to have been magic?
Yeah.
And how can we improve? And then just, when the show does go in the magic direction, waking up the next morning high on life, because you have that rewarding feeling of having created something that connected with people. So that's a big one for me that I didn't do much of in the push, like on stage era, because I was just usually showing up and performing.
Just showing up and hitting.
Has its own advantages.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice transition when it goes from I hope I'm good to I hope the show is good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fun, like, because I agree, it's also kind of fun to when you get people when you don't have to herd the cats, when you can just when everybody's there to do the thing. It's like, great, let's do this. It's fun.
We're very lucky in the improv world to have a large group of willing and talented and awesome people that want to perform. And like I said, last night was a great show. It wasn't a bad show. Yeah. Well, and like take one of Matt Cole's brainchild's American Master Debaters, which I don't know, Andy. I have watched. It's quite an impressive feat for a live stream in terms of tech and format. And I would say 3 of them have been magic.
Yeah.
3 of them have been good.
Yeah.
And maybe we've done 7.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's that one show we don't talk about.
That's the one show we just don't.
7 people died.
Well, I mean, one of them I probably missed, but like Friday night, this particular week, this past Friday night I only saw a bit of it, but I could just tell right away it was magic. So
it's interesting too, in producing a show, you have more, maybe, more areas that could hit. Like when you're just an actor, it's like, well, I mean, the part that I played, I mean, that hit or it didn't, or I did well or whatever. But producing, It's like, well, did you get a good audience, or was the audience having fun? Did you make money? So there's different like aspects that you can grade yourself.
That's such a key to remember every damn time is that you don't control it. The audience largely controls it, even on a live stream.
Yeah.
Well, you have even less control. You have even less control than you normally do, because normally you're at least on stage and you can, like, now you're like, fly my pretties. And you're like, no, what are you doing? Stop flying towards the sun.
But there's almost no question in our live stream world, if I see an average number in the like mid 30s of viewers, we're going to have a great night.
Yeah.
We're going to have a great night.
It's going to feel like there's a lot of people in the theater. I don't know. It's
having 15 or 20 doesn't guarantee it's a bad night. But having 30 plus almost guarantees it's a good night. Yeah.
And some people will be like 30, poof. But that's what we get.
Oh, if anyone's thinking that, they probably just need to tune out and check themselves. 30
in live stream numbers is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 for a live show is huge.
Like, actually, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Harold Night never got 30.
Yeah, student shows at Push, I mean, they were just for students, and we were lucky we got like a couple who just stumbled in and were like, do you really want to watch this?
I did stand-up open mics in New York for nobody. Like literally all the other performers were out in the bar, and they just took turns performing to an empty room.
Yeah, I've done, you've done those improv shows where there's more people on stage than in the audience. And you're like, all right, here we go.
Oh, are there other kinds?
Yeah, they're the best,
right? Speaking of which, I want to get your take on this. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about the big theaters closing during the pandemic, Andy?
I mean, my initial thought is that that's horrible, but it's it's an interesting business model. Like when your main source of everything is live performance, and live performance takes a hit, it's definitely And it's scarier for the little guys like us. It's just like, oh shit, how long can we hold on?
Right.
But I think a lot of them, I'm not saying that the ones that have closed haven't adapted, but I think a lot more places are trying to adapt to like, all right, cool. Like, how do we create content? How do we do stuff how do we move to stuff online? And it makes me just kind of go like, we need to do more of that.
Yeah.
If we're going to try to stay open, figure out a way to, beyond just like donations, like how do you monetize this online thing without it being this, something that people are like, well, I don't want to pay that.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What do you think about the, when I read those articles, I think, well, how hard would it be to jump back in once the pandemic's in the rear view? Like in some of those cases, I'm like, it probably makes sense to shut down for now. Just to stop the bleeding. And then once there's a market again, pull resources and jump back in.
That's what I'm hoping that people do. But the other thing, the one positive that I think comes out of that is there is this like decentralization of performance and comedy and stuff like that, where they're like the independent groups are still going to be there. It kind of makes them less beholden to a central entity that sometimes, to be perfectly frank, there's not a great compensation model. There's not a lot of creative freedom. Sometimes I'm speaking very broadly,
right?
But I think it kind of does this nice thing of like sort of like maybe decentralizes it a little bit.
Yeah.
And like I'm always for decentralization of pretty much everything.
That's the thing that Push will never get enough credit for. Creative freedom.
Yeah.
Push. The amount of creative freedom that they allowed in that building.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. Brad and I talk about that all the time. It's like, I understand that like a lot of places can't pay people. Like they may pay the producers and they may do a little bit of something, but it's like little things like either A, letting me feel like I've got creative agency there, or feeling like I own part of the show goes a long, long, long way.
Right.
Pushers would be like, you got 10 o'clock on Friday, and never ask you another word about it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They'd give you notes at the end, but they would never ask you another word.
Yeah. And it is different because sometimes it feels, and I know definitely with Brad and Sean, because they've been around the block with this stuff, is like there's this thing of, paying people in an exposure. And sometimes it could feel like that, but that's totally different, because it's like paying people for exposure is like you're using performers and stuff for your project, for your own gains and that sort of thing. Whereas like Brian Sean and speaking for Push is like, no, I mean, like Brian said, you have your show at 10 p.m. and if you hit on that show, it's like, yeah, they get a cut of it or whatever, but like they're furthering their own like artistic goals. So it's not just exposure.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Is like it's that feeling like you own part of the show.
Right. Yeah.
Here's the thing. It'll take care of itself. If your show is good, you will start getting the people in there, and you start getting the people in there, then you get your brand of that show or whatever gets to grow a little bit more, and that's the thing, is like the bad shows will weed themselves out.
Right. And this is a little this is a little privilegey, because I came to comedy after I had an established career and life and all that. I never gave a shit about the money.
Right.
Like, I only cared about one angle of the money, and that was the theater being sustainable.
Yeah.
Like whatever it takes to make this place stay open is all I care about. Cause I'm here as a hobbyist, as an enthusiast, as like, would almost pay to do it. I have paid to do it.
Yeah, we all have.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about, shout out to Kamikaze, cause like right before the pandemic hit, like every one of their sketch shows was starting like to sell out. And that kind of sucks.
They're great. I saw them in the Savannah Comedy Fest. And
awesome.
Because I knew everybody. Yeah. I was like, I know these people, but I got to actually see their show and hang out with them. And loved it. Thought the show was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a great group.
So it is going to take a bunch of rebuilding when we're back, I guess, and hopefully there's places and stuff to be back to. But well, now you're inspiring me, Andy. We gotta get this shit going.
I'm inspired to create a comedy industry podcast with the three of us.
Yes.
Called Who the Fuck Are These Guys?
Called It's Not About the Money, but it's kind of about the money.
Yeah, but the money's nice though.
Or we could call it Jurassic Park.
Laughs will find a way.
I stole that from Andy. I think that was before I hit record. Anyways, okay, well,
let's just call it Improv Explosion.
Improv Explosion. That's right. I steal all my best ideas from Andy. All right. What's coming up for you? Anything that people can check out now, or a website that you're building?
Well, I'm still doing all these Andy live and stream videos.
Okay.
They premiere once a month at a show called DigiRip that you can find on the Nameless Numberhead YouTube page. The next one is next Friday, the 20-something. I don't know when this is coming out, but so the 20-something of February, whatever that is.
This is perfect timing because I just cut my cable service today.
There you go.
I'm gonna need content.
You should. DigiRip's pretty cool. Like DigiRip is it's all creators from all over the place. In fact, I tried to get people from the Push to do it. It's music videos, it's comedy, it's weird experimental stuff. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of these Andy live and stream videos, which is a hapless live streamer that shouldn't be doing it, that somehow keeps opening a portal to hell or being dragged away by ghosts. They're weird. They fall in the weird spectrum.
That's awesome. Well, a lot of our listeners love that kind of shit, so check it out.
That is cool. I don't think I've ever seen a whole lot of your weird side.
Yeah, it's they're definitely, there's some that's like, I mean, it's kind of comedy, but like not so much.
All right. Well, thank you for talking shop with us, and thank you for being back on the podcast. I think we are on to the episode. Bye bye.
Let's do it.